Okay, we're gonna talk about fascism a little bit, or authoritarianism, authoritarian fascism. So, a lot of people on the left, they have this motto: vote blue no matter who, right? Vote blue down the ballot. Now, voting blue locally, that's probably a viable strategy, perhaps. However, on on the nationwide stage, this vote blue no matter who strategy, the justifications for it are basically that Donald Trump is a fascist. And if you don't vote for the lesser of two evils, the Democrat candidate, the establishment Democrat candidate, then you are voting for fascism. And even if you vote for a third party, if you vote for Cornel West or RFK or even Marianne Williamson, you are voting for a fascist. You're throwing your vote away and you're contributing to a Donald Trump presidency. Now, Donald Trump, what did he do? Well, he tried to delegitimize some of the election results in certain states, right? That's fascist behavior, right? And he lost all of those cases, as we know. That's fascist behavior. I'll give you that. However, if this is the only fascism you're seeing in this country, then you're not paying attention. Okay? So, what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people think fascism is like an on off switch. Okay? So, Donald Trump equals fascist, fascism on if Donald Trump becomes president, fascism off if a Democrat becomes president. That's not how fascism works. Fascism has a magnitude, it's a sliding scale, it's a spectrum. So, what is fascism? Fascism is when a government controls the people to an extent that that infringes on their freedoms, right? And a lot of people point at Donald Trump and they see that okay, he's trying to take away, he's trying to delegitimize elections, so that's fascist. He's trying to kill the democracy. But who else is trying to kill the democracy on the left? This is the point of this video. If you only see fascism on one side in this country today, you're not paying attention. As I said, so examples of fascism on the left. The Twitter files, okay? We had a government interfering with a private social media company attempting to control speech. Okay, control speech in order to control public perception, in order to hide certain things, such as, the Hunter Biden laptop, right? That would have been quite damaging to Biden's campaign in 2020 if that had been released on all of these media platforms, right? But instead, the government stepped in and the government cozies up with the media corporations. They invest in the media corporations even, and they now control these media corporations. And the end result is that, again, the government is controlling speech behind the scenes, and that's fascism. Okay, that is fascism. I don't care what you think. That is fascism, factually. But beyond that, what other fascist behaviors have come from the Democrat Party in recent years? Well, vaccine mandates, okay? The government mandated vaccines and basically threatened the economic livelihood of people if they didn't get vaccinated. Okay, for government employees, right? And obviously a lot of private employers, private companies, obviously they also mandated vaccines lest you be fired, you be laid off for your refusal to get vaccinated. But that's not fascism, right? Because that's not coming from the government. But forcing government employees to get vaccinated is fascism, okay? Military, whoever it may be. That is it's implementing controls over people, and it's taking away their freedoms. The point here is that there's fascism on both sides, okay? And if you're not seeing that, then you're missing the whole. You're not paying attention. So what's happening is that the media fearmongers about Trump, the left-wing media, and they do that in order to get their right-wing Democrat elected. The right-wing media fearmongers about Biden in order to get their right-wing candidate elected, right? So the point is that there's this divide and conquer strategy going on. The media owns both parties, okay? The corporations own both parties. And when they own both parties, they end up planting effectively, indirectly or directly, the candidates they end up supporting are corrupt, and they are going to support the economic policies that benefit the corporations and the media corporations. It's corruption, right? That we know this. But if you only see corruption on one side, and you allow the fear mongering in the media to convince you to vote for the lesser of two evils to avoid the greater of two evils, then what's the end result? Evil, okay? If you vote for the lesser of two evils, you vote for evil. So I ask you, why are you allowing yourself to vote for evil? You're allowing yourself to vote for evil because you fear the greater evil, and because the media has convinced you that the good candidate, the candidate, that the third party candidate or the independent candidate or even the libertarian candidate, the media has convinced you that those candidates, those good candidates, can't win. They've convinced you that voting for them is throwing your vote away. And what happens when they convince you of this? Well, the third party candidate gets 3% of the vote, right? But what happens if you vote for that third party candidate? Well, then they get 5% of the vote. And then they get 10% of the vote the next election. And then they get 15%, and then they get 25% of the vote. Before long, the perception that one of these third-party candidates can win, it builds, okay? It builds to the point where people actually have hope of getting out of this two-party duopoly, this uniparty, this paradigm that is increasingly screwing over the middle class. You cannot allow your fears of Donald Trump to force you to vote for, I don't know, RFK or Marianne Williamson or Cornel West. Or rather, you can't allow them to force you to vote for Biden instead of those other third-party candidates. You can't fall for these traps. Otherwise, you stay in this paradigm where the corporations they own all of the candidates. The corporations buy the ad space that the media corporations sell, and then the media corporations fearmonger about voting for anybody but Trump and Biden, and then Trump and Biden get elected, and then Trump and Biden support the economic policies that support the profits of the corporations, and then the corporations, again, they buy more ad space in the media with that money they made, and then they fearmonger about Trump and about third-party candidates in the media, and then you vote for Trump and Biden again. It's a cycle here. And if you don't see the cycle and you allow your fears to control who you vote for rather than voting based on your conscience, on who you actually want to be elected, then you lose. Okay? The middle class loses. The point here is that, the point is that you can't vote for who the mainstream media tells you to vote for. You cannot do it. It will not work. It will screw you over in the long run. And I don't care if you're rich or poor. It'll screw both people over, because it's either the rich or the poor people are starting a revolution because they can't eat, or it's the rich people who are perhaps getting targeted by the poor people who are starting that revolution. It fucks everybody over in the long run when you vote for the establishment candidates, including the mainstream media platforms, because the economy collapses, and before long, they don't have a population to control. They don't have a population they can't control because people can't afford to watch TV. It's a vicious cycle, and you cannot allow your fear to control you. And this goes for voting, but it also goes for every other aspect in your life. You know that when you ease your fear and start thinking rationally, you start making better decisions in your life. It applies to politics too. It applies to who you vote for. And it applies to every aspect in your life. Fear is, in effect, your only god. Okay, I think LaRoche said that in one of his songs. One of Rage Against the Machine songs. You can't allow the fear-mongering to control you. That's what they want you to do. They want you to vote for this uniparty so that they retain control of the government. And they retain control of the government if you vote for any establishment Democrat or Republican that is being pushed by the mainstream media. The government, the corporations, and the media corporations are all in bed with each other. And, if unless you start voting for the third-party candidate, nothing's going to change. So don't fall victim to the fear-mongering. You have to stand up. And a lot of people like to say that ranked choice voting is the only way out of this mess, but here's the problem with your mentality. Ranked choice voting only works if you vote for people that will pass ranked choice voting. But the corporations who push Trump and Biden, for example, they don't want ranked choice voting. So ranked choice voting can only be ushered in after you start voting for the candidates that are not supported by mainstream media. So you have to vote third party before ranked choice voting can become a reality. It's the only way, unless maybe you perhaps live in one state. If maybe your state can implement ranked choice voting in their primaries, or and even in the general. But the only states that are going to do that are very progressive states, and most states aren't that progressive. So if you look at your fellow working class citizen and you realize that the economic stress is the true source of your problems, then we can agree that the best thing to do is vote outside of those establishment Democrats and Republicans, that established paradigm. Otherwise, you're going to get more economic stress. Maybe you can break out of it. You know what? I beg you, go run on that go run on the hamster wheel and see how you do. Maybe you'll be one of the people that breaks out of it. And you know what? Good for you if you do. I guess that'll work for a little while until the lower class is so fed up with the wealth inequality that they start a revolution. Okay, there's going to be a revolution one way or another. It's our decision whether it's a peaceful economic revolution or a violent revolution. And the thing about the violent revolution is even if the violence is targeted at the right people, it's probably just going to lead to more corruption. It's just going to, the new powers are just going to be just as corrupt as the old ones, because if you don't think and solve the problem in your head first, if you don't figure out the fear that's going on in your head, then you're going to come up with bad solutions. And violence is the reaction to fear. It's where fear goes when fear gets a little bit too out of hand, right? So again, I personally, I think I'm going to vote for RFK. Coming up on October 9th, I think he's going to announce he's running as an independent. He's going to announce he's something. I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to be. And that throws a wrench in the Democrat and Republican parties. I think this is going to be the least predictable election we've seen, because I think there's going to be a lot of unlikely. I think COVID woke up a lot of unlikely voters, and I think there's a lot of people who are going to be drawn away from both the left and the right to vote for RFK, and it's going to be interesting. Personally, I'm voting for RFK, but I also like Marianne Williamson, but I don't think she'll get anywhere in the Democratic Party. I also don't think Cornel West will have the success that RFK does, but maybe I'm wrong on that. I see a lot of support coming from the right for RFK Jr., and I don't see that for Cornel West. And Cornel West's campaign strategy, I mean, Jimmy Dore made a good point about it. He's focusing too much on the race war, and he's not focusing on the economic war. It's a class war, and if you focus on the race war, if you talk about race reparations, you're just turning off a bunch of white voters that you would have had otherwise. And I hope Cornel West kind of flips his script a little bit, but you know, he's back. He's, no, we'll see. Thanks for watching.